Regular meeting of council for Monday, November 6th, 2017 to order. And we need approval of the agenda, and there's one change I wanted to put in, and that's 10.3 for that trip to talk about the numerous empty coal hauling trucks going to Chetwynd. I'll be adding that. Approval of the agenda as amended. Councilor Howe.
Recommend the council adopt the agenda of November 6, 2017, regular meeting. Council is presented with amendments.
Second, Councilor Scott. All in favor? Adoption of the minutes for October 16, 2017, regular meeting, council meeting. Councilor Scott.
The council adopt the minutes of October 16th, 2017 regular council meeting as presented.
Second to that, Councilor Galka. All in favor? And for special meeting of council for October 23rd, 2017. Councilor Scott.
The council adopt minutes of October 23rd, 2017 special council meeting as presented.
Second. Councilor Howell. All in favor? Any business arising from those minutes? Councilor Scott.
I just have one comment. When we blocked up Front Street, I was just wondering how that went. Was there, just before planning for next year, was there any burn residue or whatever on the pavement? I just thought if it's fresh in people's minds, if they know how that went for planning for next year, whether it should continue being out or if we're in the shop or in the parking lot in between the grocery store and the dollar store.
There was no burns. There's quite a bit of sand down there, so it's very little heat transfer. There'll be more heat on a sunny day than there would be coming through from that fire.
Okay.
That's everything? Okay, petitions and delegations. First, 5.1 stars. Glenda Fern and Greg Schmidt. Welcome. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much.
You might have to turn that on.
Is that on? There?
Yeah, that sounds good.
So thank you so much. We really appreciate this opportunity to bring you some information. Like you said, I'm Glenda Farnan. I'm the Senior Municipal Relations Liaison for Stars.
I'm Greg Schmidt. I'm the base director for Grand Prix Base for Stars.
Okay, so we've had the privilege for more than a decade now of working with the Peace River Regional District Boards. We've had the opportunity to work with your Mayor McPherson as well. And we just now wanted to take an opportunity going forward that we could keep all of the council's members engaged as well. So we're bringing the updates that we bring to the Peace River Regional District, bringing them to share with all of your council members as well. So let's get started. So first and foremost, the Stars Emergency Link Center, where the calls come in, we work very closely with the 911 dispatch system. And this is located in Calgary, and it's all a part of, being able to bring further enhancements for critical care. So we do have a number, almost 100 transport physicians, emergency critical care physicians across the 3 provinces that STARS now serves: Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, with bases located in each one of those provinces. And then we additionally also serve northeastern BC out of the Grand Prairie base and southeastern BC out of the Calgary base. So essentially, Western Canada. So being able to utilize...
Announcing participant.
Being able to utilize the access of having these emergency critical care physicians and their expertise is bringing that into play by being able to have them, decide, help in the decision making for the best mode of transport for a patient and the best destination for that patient. So in essence, overseeing all of the aspects on critical care calls. So even regardless if the patient were to go by ground ambulance or maybe fixed wing or even STARS, that we do have the access for these emergency critical care physicians to make those patient decisions. So I wanted to give you an idea too, we have the ability to be serving northern residents, and we do respond to many diverse situations. So I just wanted to bring you kind of a quick overview of all the different areas where we, have had to respond. So whether it's in the Kakwa area, which has several registered site locations as well for response for STARS, maybe for a heart attack or stroke type of call in the field, on the tractor or the combine. The lower corner there is a forestry accident, so you can see the helicopter landing in a very diverse situation, as well as even on the riverbank. So we have to be ready, willing, and able to answer to those calls in, with limited time into what kind of situations we're actually going to respond. It's really important to remember that the critical care piece begins as soon as we reach the patient. If you've ever had the opportunity to see the interior of the medical helicopter, it's very much equipped as an intensive care unit.
Yeah, so as Glenda mentioned, really the premise behind STARS is bringing the ICU or bringing the emergency room to the patient rather than bringing the patient to the larger hospital. So that's done really through a couple ways. First off, with the staff in the back, so we have a critical care paramedic and critical care trained nurse in the back at all times, as well as kind of assisted with a physician over the phone or sometimes in person. The back of the helicopter is equipped with a lot of things that you'd kind of be surprising to find in the back of the helicopter. One of the biggest things that we've added fairly recently over the last little more than a year to all our helicopters across our fleet is universal blood product. So this is 2 units of O-negative blood. So this is universal donor blood that can be given to anyone at the time of injury. So you can literally fly to the side of a car accident scene or industrial accident or someone needs blood and give them blood at that time. Previously we had to wait either to stop at a hospital, pick up the blood and bring it out to someone, or more often the patient had to wait until they got to the hospital before they had blood. So this truly saves lives, so it's a huge benefit to these patients that need the blood at the time that they need it. So some of the other stuff we do in the back of the aircraft, we have a video laryngoscope, which is basically a fancy camera that we use to stick down someone's airway. So one of the most dangerous things that anyone does in advanced care is they put a artificial airway in for a patient. And in order to do that, you have to stop their breathing, their natural breathing. When you stop their natural breathing, obviously you want to make sure you're putting the tube in the right place at the right time, otherwise it becomes a really high-risk activity. So this video laryngoscope allows us to do that 100% of the time with very little risk, so it makes a huge difference to those patients. We've also got ICU level ventilators, just like you'd find in the large hospitals. The ability to do blood work in the back of the hospital, or back of the helicopter, sorry. So it takes about 2 minutes. We can do lab work and check to see what your blood levels are at, blood loss, electrolytes and that type of stuff. We can start all kinds of IVs and central lines. We can do ultrasound of the patients to see if there's any internal bleeding or if we have any clots lines. So it really is truly about bringing that level of care to the patient rather than the other way around.
I want to bring you an overview for Prince River Regional District itself. Highlighted in red is Tumbler Ridge interfacility transfers from critical care transfers coming from your hospital needing to go to a higher level of care, as well as any kind of scene calls that may have happened in and around the immediate Tumbler Ridge area. So to give you an idea here of what's been happening since we started the base in Grand Prairie back in December of 2006. So this is a full overview of missions that we have done for you and your area. And then it's also important that we talk about our neighbors and the neighboring areas that we've been able to help support with some missions from the Grand Prairie base. So we have done missions as well, like as far north as Fort Nelson and down to Ryde in the Valemont area and Quesnel. We had a mission for Quesnel as well, which is actually in the Calgary response area, but they were not available. So we were able to respond to that particular mission. And then just to give you kind of an overview of the southeastern BC area and how you can see a difference in the type of response that we're able to do in that area, where they're averaging, you know, roughly in the 60 to 66 missions annually, as an annual average, for those areas. So we want to thank you very much for being one of our partners in saving lives. We want to ensure that you know that we are working together with BCEHS, with Northern Health, and with the Peace River Regional District in order to try and continue to find ways that we can be the best response for you and help, you know, be another option for your residents. We are building positive change by continuing to work together, and we are able to enhance the level of critical care that is available. The results are that we are seeing some very positive outcomes. And just in the statistics alone, you know, with the recent missions flown now, we're looking at, if you would have seen in the mid area between 2007 to 2010-11, you know, we built up to around an average of about 30 missions per year. Then there's been a bit of a decline. So we're now trying to continue to work together to find those avenues that we're able to be that additional option. So last year we had flown a total of 6 missions. Now this year to date, those missions I showed you for this year were up to August 31st. So there's been a few extra missions in September. So we've actually, in northeastern BC, we've done 12 missions so far. We're double what we did last year. So that is really showing change. And that we're able to continue to work together to ensure safety and a quality of life for your residents, and at the same time, working together, we are protecting and preserving for the future and for future generations. Greg, can you?
Yeah, no, you know, one of the things, as Glenda mentioned, our numbers have been kind of up and down in Northeast BC, and that is a lot of, quite frankly, politics, working with BCEHS and kind of integrated into their system and vice versa. So we have been working fairly hard to try to improve that over the last year, and as have they. So I think that's the biggest reason why we've seen mission kind of slowly creeping up. Some of the other things that's changed over recent years is a decrease in helipad infrastructure and kind of across our area. So particularly in northeastern BC at Fort St. John and Dawson Creek, we used to be able to land right in the hospitals, and that's not the case anymore. So our missions have decreased a little bit as a response of that, as a result of that. So, but again, working with kind of BCEHS, the hope is and Northern Health, the hope is we can help.
Thank you very much for your time. It's great to meet all of you, and we look forward to bringing you an annual update to keep all of your members well informed.
Thank you for your presentation. Is there any questions from council? Councilor Truck.
Thanks. I actually work for BCEHS.
Okay.
So I totally see the politic thing.
Yeah.
So I think you guys are an amazing backbone to Northern BC. So thank you guys for everything you do for Tumbler Ridge for sure, and Northeastern BC when you're last minute call, you're there. How many aircraft do you have available in Grand Prairie?
In Grand Prairie, we generally have 1 aircraft staff, 24/7. We often have a second aircraft there for maintenance and PR and training and that type of stuff. Generally, each of our bases across the 6 bases have 1 aircraft that's staffed at any given time. So we've got a fleet of 11 aircraft across our 6 bases.
You know, one thing that's confused me with the regional district, I know, and especially the rural areas, have always complained that they don't get enough air service for emergencies, and you guys are there. You know, and you say it's politics is the reason that it's so low. But yet, when we need you here, you're here. I don't understand. Where does it fall apart? Like
Yeah, it's a solid question to be honest. So, you know, Tumbler Ridge has actually been fairly steady numbers across our kind of 10 years of operation in Grand Prairie, and I'm not sure what that is. I suspect it's because you guys are more remote probably than most of the other communities in northeastern BC to an extent, right? So, I think it's even easier for BCEHS to realize, you know, they need help faster, you know, and really we're one of the few options, particularly when you have an airport that not a lot of fixed wings want to go into at night and that type of stuff, right? So we are literally one of the few options for you guys at times. So it's always been fairly consistent across Tumbler Ridge. You know, where it kind of comes apart with some of the politics is really about patient movement and where patients need to end up kind of for their final destination is. And it's real challenges in the sense that, you know, we like to think that patient care should be borderless, but in reality it's not borderless. So we have multiple health regions and 2 provinces that are paying for the care of those provinces or those patients at the end of the day. So The real concerns comes into, most of our patients get transported back to the QE2 hospital. QE2 hospital is a regional care center, so it's not tertiary care, but it provides generally a higher level of care than most of the hospitals in northeast BC. But a large percentage of those patients aren't necessarily served kind of as their final destination in Grand Prairie. A lot of them need to go on to either Edmonton or Vancouver, or whatever the case may be. So part of the challenge with that is they end up kind of taking an air ambulance to go halfway to where they need to go. So BCEHS has really done a lot of work on early activation of fixed wing over recent years to try to get a fixed wing to that patient as soon as possible, so that patient can go right to Vancouver or right to Edmonton, or wherever the final destination is. So, and I think it's got a lot of merit, and from what I understand from BCEHS, it's made an improvement on patient care for sure. But in talking with BCEHS, I think there is still a gap there. So, and I think they're well suited to fill that gap to move those patients either to Grand Prairie or Fort St. John, or to meet with one of the fixed sites from either side of the province. Just working on the details of how and when that happens.
Yeah, we've talked to, been very many discussions with Northern Health about having aircraft and helicopters backing us up here, and they've always said, yeah, they realize it's because they're about the best around for doing that, and they're working towards working with you. So hopefully that's going to improve over the next few years.
Yes.
You know, I worked in the oil patch. I know STARS number is the number one number up there for emergency services. So you know, and that's not very far from where we are right here. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so it should work all over the region.
Yeah, that's the hope. And I usually, you know, we've had a large number of meetings with BCEHS, people from local as well as kind of Vancouver and stuff. We think there's a common goal and common want to make this, you know, figure out all the challenges and make it work for the patients. You know, everyone's kind of on the same page. The patient is the most important part.
Okay, was there anything else?
So operationally, how's our area here for you guys to land in? Is it, is there any improvements we can make on that for you?
So, can I get back to you on that? So
Yeah, no,
we actually got
absolutely.
stuck in a logging truck on the way, and I wanted to be in town about 15 minutes earlier, but just to take a look at the helipad. I know there's been some build up with some structures and stuff around the landing site that we use here. Transport Canada's really been cracking down on us on our temporary landing sites, is what we call them. So, you know, it's not an approved helipad here. It's kind of an area that's doesn't have a lot of buildings around it. So, and one of the benefits of being remote is not a lot of people ask a lot of questions. So we've gotten away with landing there, you know, for the last 10 years. I'm pretty sure local operators land there regularly as well. So it's something we have to look at, you know, and is that a long-term solution? Not sure 100% right now. You know, so doesn't necessarily mean a person has to put a big fancy helipad in there, but there may have to be some improvements or, you know, some kind of at least protection of the area around it to make sure it doesn't get built up.
Well, with that being said, I'd appreciate it if you could get back to this
Absolutely.
council with that. If there's anything we can do to improve the service that you guys do for us, I don't think there's anybody around this table that would even blink an eye at it. So
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Brandon, right there. Here.
Hey, well, thank you very much again for your presentation. It's nice to see you in Timber Ridge. I see you a lot of times in Bell Street.
Yes, absolutely.
It's nice to get out to all the communities for sure.
For sure. And we will look forward to bringing you annual updates.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, 5.2, Justin and Connie, at the table.
Excuse myself.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Connie Muse,
Justin Zimmer.
and what we are seeking here is a fair and reasonable rate for a wedding on the first hole of the golf course. I did submit a letter. I'm not sure if everybody's read it. Not very long. I can read it again. I'm not sure if you want me to do that.
I think we all got it here.
Have I got it there?
Maybe we don't.
We do.
there we go. Yeah.
Page 18.
So there was no rate put in place for such an event. So we were told that it would be similar to a golf tournament, which to me it's nothing like a golf tournament. We wouldn't be using the whole course, we'd only be using one hole. it wouldn't come with any frills, it would be just basically a piece of grass for a few hours. So we thought $1,000 was a little steep for a piece of grass for a few hours. And because there was no rate put in place, we thought maybe it might be time to put something like that in place.
Yeah, what we're requesting is, like, we want to keep things local. I'm choosing to get married here because I grew up here. Me and Angela recently purchased a house here, so we're setting roots down. And it's very difficult to keep things local that when, you know, you go to try to rent something and it's a little bit out of the price range maybe, right? Especially for, if you look at the numbers, I don't think that within the 4 hours that we would be renting the course, that the course would actually make $1,000 if we didn't rent. So what we're asking is that it can almost be reviewed so that we can have a fair price for what we would be renting in a sense. So it's something that.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody have anything they want to Councillor Hall?
Yeah, so I think that maybe it's one of those things that just slips through the cracks when there's a lot of stuff that's going on with, you know, getting the golf course lease up and who's renting it, and who's, you know, a lot of this stuff comes together just in enough time so we can get the holes in the ground out there. But my only concern for the golf course is that if somebody is on the greens or something that's, you know, a part of the golf course that could be damaged with traffic like that, where you guys are talking of having, the one that I know of, where Connie is talking about having it is on the first hole off of the tee boxes in an area where there shouldn't be anything, foot traffic's not gonna do anything to it.
Yeah.
You know, greens or a certain time of the year might be affected, and I think like if we could review this type of stuff on a case by case basis, I don't know how we could set that up into policy, I'm not sure how that works, but for the way I see it as, I mean, like, it's not really affecting a golf tournament or anything like that. And by rights, if it's a couple hours for you guys to do your ceremony, they can start on hole 2 and finish on hole 1.
Exactly.
You know, or throw the ball out, whatever, where they normally would hit it, and that's one different stroke for the game for them. So, to me, I don't see an issue, and I actually think having it on the first hole is a fantastic spot. So, in the middle of the course, it can be monitored from the clubhouse, and if there was any issues, it's a lot easier to resolve there than it is out on hole number 4 or something else. So, as far as I know, that's what we can do. We can look at the policy on it and add that in or change it to some degree.
We don't make any decisions in delegations, so.
Absolutely. Yeah, we just wanted to bring it to the attention, I guess.
Yeah, we'll be talking about this, and I think it'll have to be, the Councillor House says it'll be a policy, it'd have to affect everybody, not just somebody, so it would have to be something that.
In place for future weddings and.
Yeah, yeah, so we will discuss it and come up with an answer for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Don, I just want to throw in there, look, I just attended a wedding at Nanaimo Golf Course, and that's exactly where it was held on the first hole. And it's, I mean, far busier golf course than we have going here. And I think Councillor Howell just pointed out, we start on the second and finish on the first. I mean, that's a great way. And by the way, the cost was nothing near $1,000 at the Nanaimo Golf Course.
That's Councillor Mackay.
Oh, okay.
He's down in the sun someplace. Thanks, Rob.
Sorry, I had a rough time getting in there, but finally made it.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we're on to correspondence. 6.1, Alaska Highway Community Society. Just we're looking for appoint someone to this. Oh, sorry about that. Appoint somebody to this group, and I'm just wondering if anybody on council would be interested in that.
Need to make a recommendation for discussion then?
Or,
For discussion?
well, I guess I did.
Oh, okay.
I was wondering, kind of like tourism realm.
That seems like, yeah.
Would you be interested?
Yes, I could sit on that.
Okay. So, do we have, do you need anything more for that? Well, or do you need a motion for that?
I know for a lot of these, they do need council motions for them, so I think having one would be a good idea.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that, Councillor Kirby would be our representative on the Alaska Highway Committee Society. Seconder, Councillor Krugelka. All in favor?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. 6.2, North Central Local Government Association Resolution Deadline. Information for discussion. Councillor Kitchen,
I'll receive for information, Your Worship.
okay, second over that. Councillor Krugelka, all in favor?
Yep.
6.3. North Central Local Government Association Board Report. Information and discussion. Councillor
Call for information.
Senator, Councillor Scott, all in favor? The Canada 150 Challenge. I've got something.
Oh, sorry.
We did participate in that, and we received this picture of all the communities, and this is Tumblr here, and I think we're, I don't know, I think we're close to first for the amount of people there were.
Yep.
So we did real well. So, other than that, I think it is just information. We'll make sure that gets hung up someplace appropriate, sure. 6.5, Citizens for Safe Technology, information and discussion. Councillor Kirby?
For information?
Scott?
Is there an action being called on this? No, I'd like to move it for discussion.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. There is a lot of reports and information coming out on microcell placement, and I'm thinking this is something that perhaps we should look into, setting up a policy of that in place, because if there's potential risk to children, I'm in favor of putting the legislation in place now as an intervention rather than, having all of these things pop up and be in place and have to look at something after the fact. So I think this is something that a person should be proactive on.
Do you have anything that you wanted to suggest that we do at this time?
Has there, I guess this would be the stuff, has there been requests for microcells or things that aren't regulated to be set up? Like wireless and stuff like that, or are we okay in that area?
I'm not sure what the whole town is doing, so I couldn't tell you for sure, but I don't believe so that these are the areas to give wide Wi-Fi signals across large areas. I don't think we have any. I'm unclear on what exactly a microcell is. Is it a signal booster? We have a couple signal boosters in the district of Tumblr Ridge, and I'm not sure if that qualifies as a microcell or not.
So, and I think this here report is just trying to implement something where they're not near like schools and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's something we need to have something in place for, or I just think now is the time to look at something before things start popping up. We might be too small of a community to worry about it. I thought there was a lot of good information.
I thought when I read through it, it was kind of picked up there was rather small.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor McPherson. I had the same concerns, and when I talked to staff, it was the same kind of answers. They weren't sure, but it is something to look into. I agree with that. With new innovations, who knows It would be good to have the policy in place.
Is that something we check back to staff?
Mr. Wall.
Yeah, if council wants to develop a policy, it would be staff who develops that policy. They have a suggested approach here where it says put the notice of wireless harm in section 2 below on the agenda of your next council meeting. So it looks like they have more information here they want to put on the agenda. Or it's the whole sheet they want us to put on the agenda. And then I guess the next step would be to review all permits, antenna sitting policies and agreements currently in place between the local government and telecommunications companies. So it looks like they have steps within here that they would be asking us to carry out.
We need a motion to ask staff to look further into this and see if there's any concerns for the district.
Yeah.
Would you like to make that motion?
I'd like to make a motion for staff to look further into the placement, I guess, as per this report on the Microsoft and wireless apparatuses. Is that good enough?
I think it describes it. Seconder, Councilor Kirby. Any more discussion on it? All in favor? Opposed?
Yep.
Are you opposed or are you for? Councilor McGuire.
I'm in favor.
And then you opposed to Councilor Hopkins. Okay. 6.7, South Sea Trust, information discussion. Councilor Kirby.
For discussion?
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor McPherson. I'd like to see this council support, send a letter of support to this letter.
That was a motion?
Yep.
Okay, seconder. Okay. Any more discussion on it? All in favor? Opposed?
Yep.
Yeah, I missed 6.6. So, go to 6.6, the Tunbridge Children's Center Society. Information and discussion.
With information?
Seconder? Councilor Casey, all in favor?
Yep.
Opposed? Okay. No bylaws? No business? Council meeting schedule. We have a recommendation now. Councilor Kirby.
The council approves the District of Tumbler Ridge 2018 council meeting schedule as presented, and that staff posts the schedule on the public notice posting places.
Seconder? Casey, discussion? All in favor? Just
One question.
Yeah.
On the council orientation session in November, there's 3 dates there. Is that 3 separate dates, or are those options for the council?
I think the 3 separate dates.
Okay. Good, I'm okay with that.
All in favor? Opposed?
Okay.
So, sorry, Rob, I keep forgetting you're there. You're in favor, right?
Yeah, maybe I'm not speaking loud enough, but yeah, I'm in favor.
Okay, thanks. Town Hall Policy Review, recommendation? Councilor Kirby.
The council approves the amendments to District of Tumbler Ridge Council Chamber Use TH-01 and Fire Procedures TH-03 policies, and that council rescinds District of Tumbler Ridge Townhouse Smoking Policy TH-02.
Seconder, Councilor Scott, discussion? favor?
Yep.
Opposed? 8.4. Capital projects, fire, and protective services building.
8.3.
What's that? 8.3. Moving too fast here. Fee for service and grant made policies. Recommendation there?
The council approves the amendments of District of Tumble Ridge fee for service TR-40 and grant and aid TR-28 policies as presented.
Seconder. Councilor Chapman. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
Yep.
Okay, 8.4, capital project, fire and protective services, buildings, operations and infrastructure buildings, and district office, building envelopes. We have a recommendation there. Councilor Scott.
The council defers the 2017 capital projects for building envelope and structural and operation improvements, both internally and externally, for fire and protective service building, operations and infrastructure building, and district office, to allow for community consultation, follow-up reports to council, and building of tendering documents in 2018, and thereby providing an accurate financial forecast for the three projects for the 2019 municipal budget.
Seconder for that. Councilor Kirby. Discussion on that? Councilor Hall.
So if we put these on the 2019 municipal budget, this is not set in stone. This is just,
No, it's just that 5-year plan type thing, is that they had the council, that they review it.
and they can spread it out over the 3 years or whatever. Okay.
And you know, I'm looking at the pictures that were in there, I still like the way it looks right now, better than some of them are there, so. I think that's gonna come up, a big issue when it comes to the residents. I think it'd be a good idea to have for a town hall meeting. Maybe one of the ones you got. Okay, any other discussion on it? All in favor?
Yeah.
Okay, the former Visitor Information Center. Recommendation there? Councilor Hoff?
The council proceeds with the removal of the former visitor center as per the March 6, 2017 meeting recommendation, with budget of $13,800 for special projects. However, to defer this project from 2017 to 2018 and include in that year's budget.
Second, Councilor Chapman. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed?
Your worship. Your worship.
Just before you guys move on, right now, council has asked us to enter into negotiations with the Geopark on use for that land. The Geopark made a proposal to council about a mobile visitor center, and council passed a resolution of support. So should I continue working with the Geopark to have that grant project seen through and placed on that land, or does council have different intentions for it?
Councilor Hoff?
I'd like to see a sell line myself. Let's see if we sell something on it, see if somebody will buy it. If they don't, maybe we talk to the Geopark. But there's lots of spots where we can park that thing.
Councilor Scott?
I support the idea of selling that parcel of land as well.
Councilor Kirby?
Thank you, Mayor McPherson. Is there any reason why the Geopark, it's a mobile unit, couldn't use that space while that land is still for sale? If that was the way to go, since we did move into a agreement for that, for them at this time?
I believe the idea is that there's a permanent structure that's built that this parks into.
Councillor Scott.
Why wouldn't we put that structure at the big center? Like, there's lots of area back behind or adjacent.
This was council's direction to go down this path.
It wasn't council's direction to build the building over there to park a unit inside of though. Like I didn't know anything about that. To me, it sounds like we're already going off down another road that we weren't talking about at all. So.
We were going down that road. That was
To
the
build a building to
put a mobile unit in.
inside of it?
Yep, they put forward plans to use that area along with the caboose and the gardens and for the
I don't remember that, but.
I remember us supporting the idea that Sarah brought to council here. So I really think that she deserves to be able to come to council and put a proposal in front of us, look at it and make an evaluation on it. So, because I remember some kind of docking station, to say we move to it or move away from it when they needed it someplace else. So I think we should have them come and make a proposal of what they really got planned for it.
I recall.
Mayor McPherson?
Yeah, I'll get you next, Councillor McKay.
And putting a presentation before us, and it was my understanding they wanted to use that building. And we spent a lot of time coming full circle to that the building isn't, it needs a lot of repairs. So I would like to see it removed and put up for sale. I didn't think there was going to be a temporary structure there, like a permanent structure for something temporary going in there. I would like to start seeing some land development and things moving to people that want to invest in it and start up some business. And that to me would be it's a location, a prime location for somebody to make a go of.
Councillor McKay?
Yeah, I gotta apologize here. I'm getting a real bad connection here, but I did hear Mr. Wall comment on the fact that I thought we had already decided on this too, with regard to the usage, and the Geopark would have been a good fit there. Now, am I correct in that assumption, or that's the way I remember that? That's what direction that we gave staff to do, was to check to see what the Geopark was to do with it, and how would we move ahead with that.
I know when Sarah did present this idea, this mobile thing that can go to other towns and everything, we did support with the idea of maybe parking it over there, but I don't think we got really serious into that, because they were just applying for a grant. We didn't know if they were going to get it or not. Now it is serious, and I think we deserve to give them the audience to let us know what they want to do there. And maybe it won't.
Yeah, okay.
You know, but they went ahead and applied for this grant with us supporting the project. I can't see us pulling back out of it without having some kind of conversation. Councillor Hall.
I don't see any issue with the mobile unit itself. What I see an issue with is storing it in some type of a permanent structure on the corner over there, like a shed or a garage. That's what the assumption I'm getting here is. To me, there's better spots that's suited for that, and that's what we paid. We wanted the thing for is to showcase it and utilize it. So have it out in the parking lot where people can utilize it. To me, a lot of these things, we make the decision based on one part of it, and other parts of it are forgotten or not talked about or wrapped up in the same type of a decision. But I don't remember anything about building a garage or anything over there to store this thing. I don't remember that at all.
And I don't think that was ever discussed, a garage over there. But and I'm not in favor of putting something that isn't good looking. That it's ugly over there. Mm-hmm. I think whatever goes there has to conform with the Vic Center. But to support and then pull your support without even having a conversation on it, I think it's wrong.
No, for sure, I agree with that.
Councillor Casey.
Well, I agree with that as well, Your Worship. It was my understanding that the Geopark had some things to say about it, that they were interested in it. I even, memory serves me right, they were going to be coming back with some kind of a proposal and so forth, but I think it would be worthwhile to ensure that they have another opportunity to at least bring us up to date as to what their intentions are.
I'd like to make a motion.
Could I chip in there?
But did you have something to say there, Councilor Guy?
Yeah, just, I don't think we should be doing anything too quickly there. I mean, that building, and I'm not sure what the Geopark has in mind for that. But I mean, if it's summer, for something that's just for seasonal, that building is sufficient to do that, and it's not that bad. And it would work. It's the winter, it's the insulation, it's the heaters and things like that. That's where the issues are. I mean, the rest of it is, it's not a bad looking building, it's a perfect spot for that type of function. So I wouldn't be in favor of doing anything with that, so we find out exactly what they have in mind.
Just on that, Rob, just on that, they have a letter stating how they do not want to occupy the old visitor center. Page 106, I know you don't have your agenda there.
Yeah, I'm having a problem with internet, so I'm trying to go along with the pages here, but yeah, I haven't a problem getting it.
Yeah, I figured that. Yeah, they wrote a letter saying how they do not want to occupy the old visitor center.
We have this
Okay.
motion to tear down
And voted on it.
and voted on it. So I'd like to make a motion now to invite Geopark to make a proposal of what they've got planned for that corner and present to council.
Second that.
Like to second that.
Any more discussion on that?
Thank you, Mayor McPherson. I am sure the Geopark came with their presentation, and do we have from the May 15th meeting? Can you pull up a resolution that we passed for that, on that date, Mr. Wall?
If you give me enough time.
You bet. Just saying that the Geo Interpretive Center that they applied the grant for was to be put on that lot, which we all voted in favor of. Now, talking about selling that lot now, there's the caboose, there's the gardens, there is an area already being used. So what council is talking now is taking that suggestion is to remove all that off of that property and put it for sale? Or are we going to be using it till we have interest in that property being sold? That's the discussion?
I don't know the lot lines over there. I don't know where it ends and begins and what's ours and what's not. But to me, I know we wanted to tear the building down and get rid of it. I did not know that the Geopark wanted to build another building over there. I didn't understand that part of it. I get the part of the mobile trailer, but not building a building over there. Maybe we passed on it, maybe totally forgotten it or didn't realize it that we were passing that. But
I thought the center was
Yeah, I think Councillor Kirby is that suggestion is it kind of makes the most sense to me. Don't move ahead. If somebody puts on a proposal to do anything better, then remove the building at that time.
I just don't think we've seen what's being proposed over there for a docking station, because I know myself, I was for the mobile, the trailer or whatever it is that they're building, but I wasn't sure about a docking station over there, but maybe it's something that's very pleasant to look at. I think it's gotta be something that goes with the town and what we're doing here, so I still think that there should be another presentation made. Dr. Scott.
just looking at the staff report summarizing all of the items that happened, it said, and I'm thinking this is summarizing that meeting. When Sarah made the presentation, it was with the directive to admin to negotiate with the Geopark Society concerning their habitation in the former visitor center. Admin discussed the potential costs of renovations, negotiating of lease agreements, and the lifespan of the building. It doesn't say anything about a temporary, I don't understand that either. It, to me, was using that existing building. And now on page 106, they're declining that, just like we had somebody that wanted to tear it down at their expense and relocate it. So like I said, this here chunk of land and that building have been a topic that we've been addressing kind of repetitively.
Do you not remember ever being here and talking about that portable, that trailer?
Yeah.
Yes, but I did not realize that we were going to put it there. I thought she wanted to use the existing facility. I do not think that they were going to go and get a grant with that intention.
I remember talking about it over there, but, that's why I think, see, get them to come and show us the proposal. How do you say no to a proposal you haven't seen?
Okay.
Your worship, is this something that has to be dealt with, like tonight? I mean, is it going to cause any disruption in anybody's plans if we indeed schedule for the next meeting or invite Sarah here? That, I mean, if it's critically important that we can't do that, then that's a different story. I don't get the sense that it is.
I don't think it's time sensitive at all.
Okay.
And we've already made the decision to tear the other building down, so
Yes.
Sure.
now we decide what we're gonna do with the rest of the lot.
Okay.
Could we get the actual dimensions of the lot? Like, does that include the caboose? Like, I'm not even certain of the area we're talking about.
We could ask staff to, when this does come, that we have a map in front of us that tells us exactly what we're talking about. Okay, and we can add that to the motion, I guess, if that's okay with, who seconded that?
I can just provide the information.
Okay.
It's not.
All righty. All in favor of that? You in
Yep.
favor of that, Councillor Kai?
Yep. In favor.
Okay, thank you. The old timers hockey lease agreement. I want
Oh, gosh, probably too, huh?
do we have a recommendation there?
And we do have a quorum, I'm just,
Yeah.
Councillor Perry?
The council give notice to renew the Old Timers Changing Room Lease Tenancy Agreement in the Tumbler Ridge Community Center and to combine the dressing room and storage room into one lease tenancy agreement for 3 years with the following rates. 2017, 2018, $2,040 plus applicable taxes annual, 2018, 2019, $2,080.80 plus applicable taxes annual, 2019, 2020, $2,122.42 plus applicable taxes annual.
Discussion on that? Councillor Casey.
thank you, Your Worship. Just a question with regards to the 3-year term. We have 1 more year remaining in our term. And this will carry over the following 2 years or 1 3/4 years. Does that make a difference relative to, we could approve it till the end of our term and then the new council coming in, whoever that might be, would have the opportunity to look at it and decide what they want to do? Or is it still feasible to lock this in as we may be doing on other things? Just like some clarification on that if I could.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Wall, is that he said a 3-year term like this. Now, if something happens that the old timers can't do the second year or something, they can come back to the council of the day and ask for something to be done about that. But as of right now, it would be a 3-year term.
But what I'm trying to get at here is the fact that, and as long as that's in order, and by the way, I don't have any objection to that. It just strikes me that something had come up, maybe this was in another term or whatever, that locking in the council, fall of the term, the new council coming in, that would be something to avoid, but I'm not entirely clear on that. That's the only reason I was asking.
There's nothing regulatory preventing you from doing it, so politically, what do you want to hand off to the next council? Do you want to hand them off a couple of years of surety on all of these things, or do you want to allow them to make their decisions right from the get-go? It's really up to you.
Fair enough, thank you.
So I just have some just curious, have we talked with the old timers at all in regards to this at all? The rates and stuff like that? I just asked in regards to, I know last year they came in and asked $1 or whatever we did. I'm just curious about this year here. It seems a little high when they already pay the highest rate for ice as well.
Some council can change the rates to whatever you feel is fair.
Okay. All in favor? Councilor Guy?
Yep.
And opposed? You were opposed and fair. We, 8.7, lease renewal for the Tumble Ridge Library Association. Recommendation, Councilor Hall.
Council enters into a 5-year lease agreement with the Tumble Ridge Library Association for the space known as the Public Library for $1 for a year starting November 16th, 2016 to November 15th, 2021.
Second. Casey.
I would second that.
Discussion. All in favor?
Favor?
Thank you. 8.8, Newsletter Information Center Management. You got a recommendation there? Kirby?
The council requests that each, the Tumbler Ridge Chamber of Commerce and the Tumbler Ridge Global Geopark Society submit a written proposal based on their presentations to council, identifying how they would operate the Tumbler Ridge Visitor Center for the budget amount of $150,000. Submissions are to be received no later than November 10th, 4 p.m.
Seconder? Casey? Discussion?
Just why do we set the amount at $150,000? Why would that be the recommendation? What if one can do it for cheaper than the other? Are we limiting them to do that, or one of?
I guess we could remove the amount out of there if we wanted to. It'd be up to council. I didn't see this as us trying to get a deal on running the big center. I thought we had two groups that we thought could run it very well. And that was the amount of money that was paid last year. That's the reason it's in there now. Mr. Wall, is that right?
This is based on council's previous decision of the service levels you wanted to provide, and then both groups came in with an amount of this much in their two presentations.
Anything else? All in favor?
In favor?
Opposed? (2017) District Christmas Party and Awards Bank. Got a recommendation there? Councilor Kirby.
The council approves the provision of wine or drink tickets for the district Christmas party and banquet.
Seconder for that? Councilor Scott? Discussion?
Maybe I missed it there, but is this just like a couple of tickets, or is this? Maybe I missed it.
We'd likely be looking at 2 bottles of wine per table.
Kind of a normal thing at most Christmas parties that I've seen.
Yeah, I know. I just thought, like, if we're going to tickets, are we issuing 6 tickets, or are we issuing 2? Or I didn't understand wine or tickets. So
It would be up to council how much you want to provide. We were looking at 1 drink ticket or 2 bottles of wine at the time. We were looking at 2 bottles of wine per table.
That seems to be the common thing, that the wine. Okay. All in favor?
In favor?
Okay, lease renewal of the Thunder Ridge Children's Center. Recommendation there? Councillor Scott?
The council enter into a 5-year lease agreement with the Tumbler Ridge Children's Center Society for the space known as the daycare for $1 a year starting November 16th, 2016 to November 15th, 2021.
Seconder? Discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Purchasing of crown land for rural residential development in the Ridge. Recommendation there?
I wonder if we should defer that until we can get some legal counsel in regards to some of it. I've been in talked with Mr. Wall, and it could be, I mean, I know myself, I'll be stepping out. It just seems to be, and I definitely am not prepared to vote on it, so I know I have clarification that I would be deemed to be a conflict of survival. It just doesn't seem, I'm very concerned with that.
I really think we should be asking for legal counsel on this too, because I've heard discussions and people interested in purchasing these lots and to be interested in purchasing the lot and also part of setting pricing for that is, in my view, wrong. And if we have to step out, I don't think we'd even have a forum here. So I'd sure like to have the lawyers come and tell us exactly what's good, how we can handle this. And I'll address the council for that. Thanks, Casey.
Thank you, Worship. I have some comments on it, but what appears to me is that where it states on the details to consider, it's got the provincial government staff has stressed that the province's primary role is to safeguard the long-term sustainability of provincial land and resources. They will therefore only consider crown land sales once they are satisfied that there is a clear demonstrated need for this land to be released for development. It is the district's responsibility to convince the Ministry of Forest, Land, Natural Resources, Resource Operation that selling the land to the district is in the best long-term interest of the province and British Columbians. Now, it strikes me we haven't done this. And nothing is stopping us if we're serious about pursuing here, is that we undertake a survey or an assessment in terms of the numbers of people that are interested in pursuing rural land development. And we haven't done that. Nothing here stops us from doing that, putting that together and so on. And again, the subject of conducting a survey or any other professional assessment to determine a clear and demonstrated need has not been done. And that to me is something that we should be doing prior to going any step further. And I think it's also called for with regards to that, because again, in terms of what I've mentioned previously, where is the proof that we as a council have done this and can prove it to the provincial government that of the conditions that they have put in? So I think it certainly would be worthwhile to pursue it. I think it would be worthwhile to put out a survey, a professional assessment of some kind, to see specifically how much of an appetite our residents have or anybody else relative to purchasing it before we proceed. Put any more money. That's my feeling.
We're one of the only municipalities that do not have rural development, and I think it's something that we do need to keep working towards. I do think it's too soon to make a vote on this decision. I'd like to see it deferred and us do a little bit more work on this, and a survey possibly might be or a town hall meeting, like to see how many people are actually interested. But I think we all know, like I know I've been approached, I think the flavor in the community is, there is definitely interest. And I think if it's advertised out there, that would be a draw to this area as well, outside. One thing I would like to see us do is the golf course. I would like to bring that up where the easements and everything are all taken care of. I know that was on the budget for this year that we voted against, and possibly put the golf course up for sale and encourage a developer that might take that on to develop residential areas along the golf courses. Like there's a lot of things we can be doing to further land purchases in the community.
So and I have no objections to doing a land survey like Councillor Casely has suggested. Along with the land survey though, I think we needed to get our feet wet into this to have some idea of costs. I think some ideas of cost per acre have been shown. We're showing some costs in here, initial just for the land at $3,800 an acre. I am a little bit, looking at the report, a little bit don't understand where we are starting to go off cost-wise. And I'm looking for staff to kind of lead me in the right direction on this one. And apologize for not getting in earlier to talk to you guys about this, but a lot of the report revolved around the cost of land would go up significantly depending on how much we had to do to be in compliance with all these provincial regulations and town bylaws and curbs and gutters and sewer and water and all this other stuff. I'm almost sure, correct me if I'm wrong, that we had talked about the parcel size of 5-acre parcels. So we said in the beginning, let's talk about 5-acre parcels because Urban Systems, our consultant, told us that 5-acre parcels, if we do those, you are not required to service them. If they are any smaller than 5 acres and they're in your district, we have to service them. So we started down the road talking about 5-acre parcels. That if we went 5-acre or greater, it would save significant costs and it would be a great first start to see if there was interest level out there to buy 5-acre parcels. So to me, if the 5-acre parcels are priced at $4,000 an acre and you can buy a 5-acre parcel for $20,000 minus some surveying costs and maybe there's some other ideas in there, that's the part that I don't get where staff has, seems to me, put a lot of emphasis on the cost for 1.5 acre lots or 1 acre lots. Can you just explain to me where that diversion happened? And you know, perhaps it's another one of these things we passed that I forgot about, but I thought the focus was 5-acre lots.
I think the issue here, and I kind of agree with Councillor J. that we should be doing that stuff so that we can show the provincial government that we do need this. And I think it'll come out positive because it's not the same way everybody I've talked to is pretty positive. But the problem is here is legally, where do we stand? What decisions can me, you, and everybody else at this table make legally? Mm-hmm. and I think we're really putting ourselves out on a limb if we do some of this stuff. So as soon as we start talking costs, we are, unless we still have an inkling of wanting to buy one of these lots, we're dead wrong here.
Well, I'll be the first one to stand up and say I've already contacted legal counsel on it, and I'll also be the first one to say that if this does go through and the costs and the price are reasonable, I would buy a lot out there. But I am not going to buy all of the lots out there.
But what I'm saying is we cannot, if we're going to buy a lot, we can't set the price on it. And I think we need legal counsel to tell us where we stand on this. Because maybe this has got to go to the developers, is what Councillor Strada's brought up. Maybe that's the way it's got to go. And they've got to come up with a price, not us. So I think we got to know legally where we stand. Councillor Strada.
Well, and that too, I don't want the district to get in the catch-22 or whatever of acting as a developer either. That's on page 162. We have to avoid where the district is acting as both a developer with a public work. So that's where I think we do definitely need to have legal consultation or whatever before we go further into this.
I'd sure like the council to do that, but if we want to do a survey first and find out if we could even show the provincial government that we do have a want for that here, or a need for that here, then we on the legal aspect of it. Councillor Casey.
Thank you, Worship. And, you know, again, I don't have any problem with us pursuing it. But unless we've got misinformation here, it's very, very clear that the provincial government, they will therefore only consider Crown land sales once they are satisfied that there is a clear, demonstrated need for this land to be released for development. So we don't know if anybody here can stipulate and can state where that's been done, fair ball. But until that's done, to me, it's something that the rest of the conversation is really irrelevant until we do that. And how we do it, professional assessment, and following that particular item through, I don't have a problem with to see where we stand. But we haven't done that. And that's right off the top. That's the first thing. We don't know we have a market for it or not. And if we don't have that market and we can't establish that, the need for it, I think it's going to fall flat. The provincial government, if this is so, they're going to listen to it. They've made that very clear.
Another question?
Yeah, you got you down on the list. I'll let you know.
Right on, thanks.
So, Councillor Casely, again, I don't think anybody has any complaints to that. I think that is one of the things in the process. I don't think that is the only thing that it hinges on. I agree with you that it needs to be done, and I hope you put a motion forward to that effect tonight, and that we can get the ball rolling. I don't think we should let this fall off the rails and say this is the only thing that we're going to do. This is the only part we're going to go. We also have to do the First Nation consultations, and there's a bunch of other stuff that have to go along the steps that's been outlined by staff here. But again, when you bring this forward to say, hey, you know, we were going to have land for sale in Tumbler Ridge, would anybody be interested in buying it? You have to have some indication of what the costs are. So, right, and that's what the process started with. And we need to know, are we going after 5-acre parcels, or are we going after 1.5 acres? 1.5 acres will cost us probably 10 times the amount of what 5-acre parcels will.
And Councillor Hall, I have absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. I have no problem with broaching the subject again, bringing it up, putting a package together, getting the lawyers involved if that's necessary. So by the time we're finished with all of those other ramifications, which will also include whether or not there's an appetite for people to buy it from it, I'm all through that process to find out.
Fair enough.
Really am.
And so again, back to the original question I had for staff that I didn't have a chance to get answered on, is that what we were looking for? It was 5-acre parcels, and why did we start looking at the more significant costs? Is there something in there that says if you're going to do this, you have to have smaller portion sizes, or what? I just don't understand why we kind of went from what we were directed as. We were directing staff as this is a cheap alternative, let's look at this first, where it came down to no, we're going to put in streets and curbs and gutters and have a really expensive option and get everybody saying no, we don't want to do that, it's too expensive. We were looking at a cheap option, and then it went to the expensive option as presented. I'm just curious where that changed. Maybe there is a part in there that we're missing that we don't know that we have to go on. Is there any reason for that?
The only thing I've heard is 5-acre lots. Mr. Watson.
So staff is looking at 5-acre lots. What we've been talking about here doesn't have the major services in, it doesn't have your water connection, it doesn't have your wastewater connections, and those are what's going to get you into the really high levels. On page 157, 1.1 establishment and service levels, Tumbler Ridge doesn't have our subdivision bylaw designed to have this type of development, and that's where, when we're getting into the legal sections, and one of the steps we're saying we need to have our subdivision bylaw analyzed and updated to allow for this type of development to go through. And that's something that council's going to have to take a look at and say, okay, well, we don't need water and sewer out here. The 5-acre parcels give us the ability to do that, but do you want lighted roads? Like the road that goes in there, do you want that to be lighted? Are you gonna have ditching in there? What's the size of the street gonna be? All of these sorts of things need to be determined before we're gonna know what the price of these are. And the more items that get in there, the higher the price is going to be. And that goes to what Councillor Scott was talking about, is that's why this process is going to be very, very difficult and tricky for council, because you guys are going to be acting in 3 hats, basically, as a developer with a profit motive, of as potential buyers, so that on the developer, you're gonna be wanting to make the most profit you can. As provincial buyers, you're gonna be wanting to get it cheap as you can. As a regulator, you need to look out for the health and development of the community. And so if council were to act as a developer, you're going to be wearing 3 different hats with 3 different motives. And that's where this becomes really tricky for the municipality to take it from A to Z. And I would suggest that getting that legal advice is a good idea.
It's getting a developer to do this is a perfect scenario, and I don't think anybody would argue if we can find one. But we've tried that before, and it hasn't worked. And so I don't know if there's another way of doing it, and I think they can tell us if there is or if there isn't. Is there something else we can do as a council to push this, whether it's to real estate or whatever it is? But I know we've looked for developers before, and it's tough to find in Tumber Ridge. Councilor Kirby.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is through to Jordan. Jordan, in your staff report, tasks 1 through 4, would those tasks be performed before we acquire, like the scenario 2? Would those include those 4 tasks?
Sorry, can you ask that
In
again?
the scenario 2, which your recommendation states, would that recommendation include doing tasks 1 through 4? No?
But Councilor Kirby brings up a good point that there's, you look through these whole tasks, the breakup of how far you want to go doesn't fit cleanly into scenario 1, 2, or 3. Council can take a look at the tasks and give direction based on those as well.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Would staff have an estimate on the cost of proceeding with tasks 1 through 4?
Task 2 is probably about 100,000. Task 4 is probably about 100,000, and tasks 1 and 3 could be done in-house.
The argument of spending any of this is not very smart. And you haven't done what Councilor Casey's already said. Pointed out that we have to show the government that we have a need for this. So why would we spend any money until we can show that?
That's up to council.
I'd like to see us table this or vote this down and send out the questionnaire and see how many people do really want to have it for a while. Rob, did you have something to say there?
It's since I put my hand up there, I think a lot of things have been said. But I think Councillor Casey has nailed it on the head. I don't think you do anything until we have a demand for it. And I was also under the understanding that it was 5-acre lots we were looking at, because we've done that before, and we actually had quite a lot of people who were fairly interested in it. Everybody welding, they had welding trucks working at the mine site, and logging trucks that were working nearby that had interest in it. Whether that interest is still here, I'm not sure, but I think that's the very first step that we've got to do before we do anything else.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to put a motion on the floor that we ask staff to initiate a market analysis on the sale of 5-acre or greater rural residential lots in proposed areas around Tumbler Ridge. And if we have to use the proposed areas that are there, then we use those ones.
Okay. First, we should do something with you've got a recommendation on the floor right now.
Sorry.
The recommendation is on the floor right now. It's been seconded, so we'll have to vote on that. So, Councilor Scott.
are we just going to be tabling this then to bring back? It's something I don't want to see.
I couldn't hear the, I'm sorry, Alan.
I said, is it something we're going to be deferring or tabling until we do the survey then, or what should we do with this recommendation? Like, it's not something I want to see fall off the table.
Mr. Wall, what would be the best, to table it or not down?
I'm not clear where council's trying to go right now, so I can't.
We are deciding to send out a questionnaire and find out if there is people that really want these lots. We figure that's the first thing that we're gonna do.
So you got to, defeat the motion you've got on the floor and then move a motion to conduct a market analysis.
Okay.
And then if you wanted to talk to the lawyers, you'd move a motion to set up that meeting as well.
Or even to talk to the lawyers, I think would be premature if we can't produce the lots. Or the want for the lots.
It's up to council how you want to proceed.
Are we going to do an in-house survey then? Like, to me, we're going to be, or is, like, what kind of a survey are we going to be putting out there, and what kind of a time frame? And is this then going to go to a letter to the ministry? Like, what are the steps to make sure that we're doing this all in a timely manner?
So I don't have an issue with us contacting the lawyers and getting information. Maybe they can tell us something about any of this right off the get-go that we need to know. And I don't see for the cost of it is for us to contact our lawyers. They were already contacted on this before without direction on it, because Jordan's trying to watch out for our best interest. So for us to hear it ourselves, I have no issue with that. And this type of a survey, before we put a motion on the table, I guess, to do that type of a survey, we need to have some ground rules in place that we are only looking at 5 acres or greater rural residential lots. That's got to be decided upon this council. Like that, I thought, and we need feedback from staff to say that our suspicions are that if we do 5 acre lots, we don't have to service them to the higher degree as we were talking about smaller lots. But that's the way I understood why we were going to try to go this cheap option to start. And we need to give staff good direction on what they're going to put in the market survey. If we're able to give people a crack at it and say, we're looking at 5 acre lots out in the Bull Moose Valley, that's close to power lines, you can hook up to power, figure that out on your own. You got to do your own water, your own sewer, but the lot cost right now is $20,000 for a 5 acre parcel. Are people interested in that? I think you'd get a much better response out of something like that than you would saying, we're looking at lots, would you like to buy one? They need some, we need to give staff some flavor of what we're talking about here and steer right clear of 1.5 acres if that presumption is correct. I'm not clear that that is correct.
I think this is important enough to call a special meeting and we'll talk this thing out, get all the angles covered. Because we've been talking about this for a long time, and I don't think we're any further ahead right now than we were a while ago, other than the fact that we decided we want to do it. We just don't know how to.
And if that's the case, if we are going to call a special meeting, then we need to bring our engineer back in, Urban Systems, and make sure that's reiterated, that 5 acre idea is the way that, is our cheapest option to go, to get started.
Councilor Casey, you had something to say?
Thank you, Worship. I agree with the suggestion that we get together at some point in time with this same subject that we're talking about and flesh it out. The reports have been put together here by Mr. Wall and staff I find to be really first class. And again, another of the areas, it is the district's responsibility to convince the Ministry of Forest, Land and Natural Resources that selling the land to the district is in the best long-term interest of the province and British Columbia. So, I mean, this is not an overnight kind of presentation that has to be put together, and judging from the comments around the table, if we can schedule it out at a particular point in time where we can be there, have had a little more time to study it and so forth, to maybe, I think it would prove to be more meaningful in coming up with what our next steps are. Not going to happen tomorrow, but in terms, maybe we can develop some kind of an overall approach in general terms to take it through, which might include all of that. I just think we need more time to to do just that, digest what we're talking about. Important subject, but it's an uphill battle, is what it is. And if we don't, again, have that nailed down with regards to, I will buy one, and we're flooded by, all of those kinds of things, we're not gonna stand a chance to be able to do that, to accomplish it. So, but I think we need more time to get together and talk.
Yeah. John, can I jump in there when you get a chance?
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mentioned that. I mentioned earlier on there about the usage. I mean, the different usages that people had requested that they showed interest in, and that was like the welding and that. But I mean, I think the question is that what you actually want to see there? I mean, there was definitely an interest there, but is that what you want to see in those areas? So.
Yeah, so we gotta figure
Just
out.
in case that there was no flavor. Pardon me?
I think we've, the people I've talked to anyway, and in our town hall meeting, I saw that definite want for real lots. But where, at what size and all that stuff is still up in the air, I guess. So, yeah, we're gonna have to do a lot more talking about it before we do too much more.
Yeah, okay. And then if it comes down to the 5 acre lots, is like what is it you actually want to see there, and what do you not want to see? So, okay.
I agree with all of that, Your Worship, and the other side of that coin is maybe there's an appetite for 10, 15, quarter section, or whatever. I mean, just besides the 5, there may be other avenues that for larger acreages that people might be interested in doing. So that can all be that can all be looked at and addressed. And again, I don't want to belabor this. Do the survey first, because the government has said not until there is a clear demonstrated need for this land to be released for development will it happen. Simple as that. We need to do that part.
Yes.
Has the government been in contact? Has anyone from Tumbler Ridge ever done any requests like a previous UBC or anything like that on rural land development in this area?
I don't think so, unless Mr. Walls knows of something.
There's been definitely people within the district who've approached the province and successfully bought rural land from them, but I'm not aware of any council going to UBCM and requesting. Didn't know.
It's ever happened.
Thank you, Worship. Just one other thing I wanted to mention as well, so we don't lose sight of it. Our Aboriginal communities have to be involved with this as well by the time we're finished. So I just wanted to point that out, that in terms of them coming involved and listening and gathering their input, that would also have to be part of the process as well. So it's not something we can do.
It might be very inspirational to move it along quicker, because they got a lot of struggles when it comes to that.
You betcha.
Okay, I'll call the question on the recommendation. Everybody in favor of that? Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, so that's gone. So the next one is, where do we want to go for it? We should take this to a PUP or a special meeting and talk about it a lot more, and maybe come up with something we can put on the survey. Councilor Hop?
Yeah, I think number one, we should have a meeting put together, like you said, and bring those people in, like all the folks that we've had conversations with in part and parcel, so we can get everyone around a table and hash those questions out. To me, I still can't get an answer if 5 acre lots is the way to go or not, but perhaps if Katrin Saxley is here, she's the one who can give us the answer. That's what I'm looking for.
Is this something maybe we should have the lawyers involved in too?
Sure, why not?
I think you
No? Well, we should have a separate one first, or what?
I would think that we need to get a land sale strategy together and figure out exactly how we can move forward. First of all, with the market analysis that goes outside of our borders to see if there's interest. And the staff report shows a lot of available land parcels. and getting those out there and seeing, you know, what, you know, and like you said, Councillor, how having costs to it, you know, if you're just going 5 acres, if we have to do some of the groundwork on stuff and see what people are willing to spend, and then we go from there. Because right now we're just spinning our wheels. We have ideas, but we haven't got the way to get them in motion. So, you know, we've got the land now, it's just how we move forward with that. So market analysis, I think, is great, and to have the right people at the table, because we can talk about it with ourselves, but we're not getting anywhere.
Yeah, so the market analysis for sure, all agreed, everybody's agreed on that up here, I'm pretty sure that's clear cut here. But if we have a meeting that's totally to do with this, and we bring all the partners in, we can sit around the table and we can then hash out what we're gonna do with the survey, or how we're gonna have that pieced out so that we get the correct response that we want from it. Right? And that takes, you know, a round table meeting rather than just go ahead and put a survey out there, right? So, and I would suggest that we have that sooner rather than later. That should be done in this year. That should be done in the next month.
Thank you, Worship. The only suggestion I would make is my preference for my vote would be the fact that we don't include the lawyers during our initial discussions, that by the time we're finished, as Councillor Howe has mentioned and so forth, and others around the table, we will have formulated the questions specifically that we would like to ask to get the answers, rather than just have a free-for-all without knowing full well we got 8 questions.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing.
Good point. Yeah.
So,
So do we want to look at the November calendar?
Throw a date out of November 27th.
is that our next meeting?
This would be for the
It would have to be
for this
during, I would
topic
assume,
of rural development.
For, oh,
27th.
regular office hours. Yeah, some of the people from Port St. John that have to attend, or
Yeah, it has to be during the day, I'm pretty sure.
say 1 o'clock. Give people time to drive into town.
I won't be here.
10 o'clock. You won't be here?
Can we do it, say on the 24th?
That's okay with me as well.
So you won't, your worship, you won't be here on 27th?
No.
Well, we should set up a date. Oh, 24th?
24th, does that work for you, Councillor Katie?
Yeah, that's fine.
Good.
Does it work ahead? Yeah, I'm fine.
So we can try and set up something with, so it's just urban systems that we want there, and we want staff.
And anyone else staff thinks should be in the room for it that we're forgetting about. Okay.
Later.
Time, John?
Is there action there?
There's no time yet.
Yeah, I do. I would recommend that council does have a conversation with the lawyers before you get too far in this, because you guys are gonna, this conversation with Urban is really gonna be centered around making choices on what services are going to be provided to that area. And I think you would be well served to find out what decisions you can make if you are going to be one of the people considered buying it. Because if you make the decisions, well, we don't need this, we don't need this, we don't need this, if you check the legal consideration sections, that's where we've highlighted council should be running into issues.
Urban systems, they'd be able to give us costs?
Costs on
Those properties would be worth.
well, we've got the appraisals now. Urban can start to give us ideas on what adding some of the services in would be, like ditching roads. You know, if you want to have logging trucks and welding trucks going down that road, you can't just be something that's just a pound per mile, a mound of dirt, right? We're going to have to construct it to some sort of standard, so they'll have an idea and help us build those costs. Yes.
Councillor Guy, you had something?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think, like, again, I'm having really bad reception here, but the way I see it is, like, below 5 acres, then the community is, the district of Tumbler Ridge is obligated to provide services to that area. Is that correct?
I'm not sure, but I'm sure that would all come up with urban systems at the meeting.
So right
Okay,
now,
and that's the problem that I think we might have run into before. But if that's the case, then that's something that I'm definitely not in favor of. That's a massive cost. I see a developer maybe looking at something like that. But the 5-acre parcel is something that's I don't know if maybe that shouldn't be kept separate, because that's an easy fix. But I'll go with whatever the council decides on this, because at least something's moving ahead on it. But I think it could be two separate issues. One where the district is heavily involved, and it's going to cost a lot of money. The other one, especially the 5-acre, is basically just the usage of the land. And do we have enough people to do it? If we've only got one or two, I don't see then there's no sense moving ahead on that. But I see them as both being two separate issues.
Just to clarify, Council, when we're talking about services, we're not just talking about water and sewer. There's a whole bunch of other services. This is, when we're talking about expensive and cheap options, we are looking at the cheap options. The cost to bring services out to those areas, one, it may not even be possible, and two, it's going to be very expensive. So we're definitely looking at the cheap options. But again, the Tumbler Ridge subdivision bylaw, which we have to follow, does not never imagine this type of development in Tumbler Ridge. In most communities, it's not imagined. If you take a look around, the type of property we're talking about is usually outside of municipal boundaries. That's why we have a Peace River Regional District, because most of that type of development happens in those areas. And that's what I'm saying. This isn't an easy or quick process, because we need a brand new section of our subdivision bylaw to be created, and council's going to have to tell us what needs to be included in there. Do you want street lighting? Do you want power? Do you want ditching? What is it that you want? And that's what we don't know. And so even getting an idea of costs is going to be tough, because we don't know what services council is going to require us to put in there. And then one more step on that, that's where I'm saying the council should be talking to the lawyers before you make those decisions.
I'm just going to say, Joe, that's why I see this as being two totally separate issues.
Say that again?
I said that's why I see this as being two totally separate issues. One that does not cost the district any money, the other which costs us a small fortune. Could possibly.
You wish, I'm not sure what, I'm sorry.
Councillor Hall, I think you had that.
Yeah, we already have rural residential properties in Tumbler Ridge. We don't have streetlights down there. We didn't build the roads for them. We didn't design the roads. We didn't, we don't plow the roads. We don't collect their garbage. We don't do anything with it. So, are those people operating outside of the subdivision bylaw, or how does that work? Because as far as I'm concerned, the places are already here, and if we need to change the subdivision bylaw, go ahead with what the vision of the council is, then if that's a step that needs to happen, then we do it. But I think we have our meeting first, and then that definitely has to be part of the meeting, but you also have to have the answers to how we're able to have rural residential properties right now that, are they outside of the bylaw, or what are those? Those ones down in Sanctuary Valley, what are those?
Well, I got those questions myself. Like, why do we have to do this now that they didn't have to do that when I bought mine?
Exactly.
And then, I think Jordan did enlighten me a little bit on that, but I'd like to hear it from Urban Systems and get it all sorted out. I'm not looking for a lot, but I do compare with what we're talking about with what I did.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Councillor Scott.
So, Mr. Wall saying that we should seek legal consultation prior to this meeting, would in the morning, like if we are going at the 24th, is that sufficient time, or should it be like a lot prior to that too, before we go ahead with meeting with Urban Systems?
Just to that, would it make sense to do it after our council meeting? Like, I assume this would have to be closed in discussion with the lawyers? Would it make sense to have it after our council meeting on the 20th?
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Because everybody generally should be here for that meeting, so rather than scheduling another meeting, just finish at the end of it.
We can see if we can set that up with the lawyers.
I'll check, yeah.
What do you need for a motion here now?
I would put a motion to approve costs for council to meet with legal advice and to have engineers brought in for rural resident development question.
Okay. So moved.
Second, Councillor Scott. Councillor Casey?
Thank you, Worship. Just for a point of clarification, we have a regular council meeting, P&P, on the 20th.
Yeah.
What's the 24th? I thought that's when we're gonna have the land development.
Yep.
So both,
24th will be urban systems. And the 20th will be a closed after our regular meeting with lawyers.
fair enough.
And did we select a time on the 24th?
24th, I don't know, did we?
1 PM, I believe.
1 PM? Okay.
Is that the time?
We can stay here all night if we have to.
Okay.
Yep, is it 1 o'clock?
Okay,
Yep.
I got a seconder for that, all in favor?
Yep.
Are you gonna be back by then, Councillor McCart?
What was the date?
24th.
No, I'll be the following week. I'll
We have to see if you
I
get.
can connect with that.
Okay. Schedule of meetings.
I'll actually be back on December 2nd.
What's that?
I'll be back on December 2nd.
You're gonna miss it. Anything else to add to our scheduled meeting? We do have that food drive on the 22nd, it should be nice to make it.
Question? What was the time that that food drive was starting?
Food drive, I think starts at 6. 5:30?
Thank you.
Okay, you got a notice of motions, we have 3 of them. 10.1,
Okay, so let's use some-
there's no policies and priorities there.
oh, okay.
10.1, that's Councillor Kirby.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know where he took off to.
He left.
Just before we get going, Daryl, we've got, on the 20th, we're gonna have, codes for legal questions on legal lots. And on the 24th, we're gonna, 1 o'clock, is we're gonna have urban systems come in to discuss.
Now, Dean will be about
Anything you wanna talk? Yeah, yeah, any questions? Okay, 10.1, issue mining, housing and site tour, Kirby?
Thank you, Worship. I put the notice of motion forward that council sends a letter of request to HD Mining to open up their housing as accommodation for the development for future international sport tourism possibilities in Tumbler Ridge, and that council requests a site tour of the buildings. This motion came forward after I attended the tourism summit in Prince George. We have Lotus Travel Group will be bringing in tourists to Tumbler Ridge in August. But through conversations, they are interested in also developing the possibility of sports camps and other conferences and such. And so they were, Alex Cole was here earlier this year and did a tour with Sarah from the Geopark on when this first topic came about. And and he was looking at those buildings. And so I came back and I asked Jordan if there was any possibility to the town using those when they're empty. And he said that it was mentioned before in an HD mining meeting that was they had. So I thought it would be good to pursue this and see where we can go with that. Of course, we don't want to infringe on any of the hotels, but this would be just another accommodation option for the future.
So just on that, Councilor Kirby, the hotel that we filled up first?
I think
There's 3 hotels, right?
when Alex was here from Lotus Travel Group, he has met with all the hotels, and he mentioned that there was some of the activities they're thinking of revolves children or youth, and he thought that the hotels weren't the proper place for that, but he was looking for other, he thought those buildings might be work. He is also like, he'll be splitting up kind of different options to different organizations in town. So yes, he's hoping to use different, you know, whether it be the Trend or the Inn, but this is just another possibility to do sports camps, etc., if it was possible.
Or I'm certainly not against having sports camp come to town or future international travel. I don't quite get the idea of utilizing one place like HD Mining, going and asking them for their housing to house these people when we already have businesses in town that do that. And to me, it kind of sends the wrong message. I don't, you know, we're supposed to be supporting our businesses here in town, and then we go out and say, hey, geez, there's an opportunity for you to put 40 people in your hotels. We're going to put them down in a project here that's, you know, been contentious since the start. And again, in the second part of your thing where you asked to go down for a site tour of buildings,
participant exiting,
may have to do with
Rob McCarty.
motion, to do with for sport tourism and stuff. But other than that, to me, they're a developer that came in. We had a building inspector do all the work. The buildings are there. They're safe. They're the way they're supposed to be. Doesn't mean nothing to me what they do with their buildings. I don't care what they do with their buildings. So to me, I'll be against your motion. I just don't see us doing this. We should be supporting our hotels, not these guys.
Just on the end of that, I was actually going to kind of go down the same boat. Are we looking at going and asking HD to give that favor to the district? To open these places up to so the district can give them out for free? Is that what the idea was?
Not for free. No, it was just an alternate form of accommodation in certain, you know, that we're just in the kind of the beginning stages of working together with this group, and it's just just another option that could be made available. And of course, you know, these groups, the packages are being put together by Destination BC and the Global Geopark and ourselves on just making the trips worthwhile. This market, they look for unique travel destinations, and so it comes with, like, you know, with tent camping, or if it's you know, the hotel. This is just a different option, and it's just basically opening up the conversation. And you know, those buildings are sitting empty, just in a form of, you know, when you're traveling with a group of students, it might be an easier way. There is some history with the HD mining and the longwall mining that this market found interesting. So, you know, it's just doing some, you know, asking the question one way or another, if it's something that we'd even want to approach HD mining on as part. It hasn't been hammered out yet, but it's just an option to look down, just kind of open that door for down the road.
Well, I'm hoping that this will never be an issue, because I'm hoping those mine gets going and they fill those places up with Canadian workers, and we don't have, and they're not empty. I have a real problem. I agree with the council that you don't want to be in competition with the hotels, and I don't know how you're not going to be. And I know what you're talking about. Yep. I heard the conversations at that meeting, and yeah, be nice, but to have that, when you got empty hotels, it's just something I can't support at this time, that's for sure. Anybody else? So there was a motion there?
Yep.
Was there?
Maybe it wasn't, it was just,
Just conversation.
yeah.
Alrighty, 10.2, and that's from me, and it's a thank you letter to HD for finishing off. I know it took longer than what any of us wanted, but I think it looks pretty good, and I saw your email there after, just after I put that email out that said that this stuff was on rocks. Well, to tell you the truth, I've seen that stuff grow on rocks, and I guess the answer will be next summer when we see what happens over there. You know, it's kind of late this year to, I thought it was great because it all sprayed, but like I said, I have seen that stuff grow on rocks. I was spraying the ditches there and they would grow on rocks, so hopefully it does. But I would like to send a letter, you know, just keep a good working relationship with us, between us and HD. I think they've come through with what they said they were going to do. I'd like to send a letter saying thank you for that.
Have they completed the project, or is there still?
There's some spots. I noticed the sidewalk there. I'm not sure what's got to go in there, but there's 2 spots along the sidewalk that's got to be finished off, and I'm not sure exactly how far. But I know that most of the stuff you're going to see is done. I don't know if you drove in there, but it was
I'm definitely gonna hit on the rocks, because I know whether it grows there or not, I see a huge issue, and I haven't had a chance to talk to staff. But you look on the opposite side where it's town-owned property, there's some pretty big boulders there when Mr. Beal or Mr. Wall's staff through his, but try to go there and cut. You just see the blades he's gonna throw off those lawnmowers.
Yeah.
I don't support sending them a letter until they're fully done, and we say they did what we wanted. I actually believe we talked about making sure that it was topsoil put over top of all that before it proceeded on the hydro seed part. And that was discussed. I believe approved for that. I could be wrong. I've got a pretty good memory, and I remember that huge conversation in regards to making sure it was all topsoil before the hydro seed.
Anybody else? Well, I'll make a motion then to send a letter. If I can get a second there.
Second it, put it on the table for discussion.
Thank you. Yeah, discussion? Any more discussion on it? Councilor Scott?
If we sent a letter at this time, we could thank them for, you know, where they're at, but I would like to make sure that it's completed the way they had stated. So it could be a little, because it was supposed to be completed quite some time ago, so.
I know.
Yeah.
That would be premature, Mr. Wall, sending a letter?
If you thank them for their progress, you're not, and that's what the motion here states, I wouldn't be thanking them for completing. It's not complete. We need to go over, staff does have some things that need to be taken care of, but we are at the point where it is cosmetic, cheap issues to take care of. The expensive issues are done. The sidewalk replacement there is something that's been flagged. That wasn't on HD. They had to work with TELUS, and TELUS has been very slow to get their services changed so they can put that sidewalk in. So the issues that are left are cosmetic, but there are still some issues left to do. The major expensive items have been taken care of.
Well, the letter does say progress. Councilor.
I think it's a good step on council's behalf to show that we've recognized the work that they're done and you know the progress, and can't wait for the completion in 2018. You know, just short and sweet.
Myself and Mr. Wall have worked very hard with HD to get a working relationship with them, because we received it in a rough state, and you know, I think this would help. So, hey, all in favor? Opposed?
It's defeated.
Councilor Mackay still on the line?
What's that?
Is Councilor Mackay?
Wait.
He's gone.
He hung up.
So
But that motion is defeated, right?
It's defeated, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. And 10.3 is the council approves Mayor McPherson's travel to Victoria to help ensure the timely environment certificate for New Macomb. That's the deal for trucking, running the empty trucks back through Chetwynd. And that would be in conjunction with Chetwynd, I think, is the way we think about it. Second for that?
Yes, I'll second it.
Okay. It's seconded, any discussion on? All in favor? Okay, council's business. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share with council? Go ahead, Councilor.
Just aware of some big rigs or big trucks driving on our new pavement down on Bergeron and up Speaker and parking in driveways. So I was just wondering if we have a bylaw officer in place to start monitoring that. And again, it's after hours. So, but yeah, I just don't want to see our pavement being stressed and having things that aren't supposed to be traveling on the new pavement.
Aren't the fire chief and the deputy fire chief able to enforce bylaws? Do we have to have somebody hired in place that they can do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? Councilor Kirby?
Thank you, Your Worship. I attended the Tourism Summit in Prince George. It was a really good conference. Tumbler Ridge was highlighted several times throughout the conference. I got a chance to talk with BC Parks, where I'm going to have to take back my statement of the gate being open year-round. It is not.
Oh.
No, yeah. So the talk we had was about winter use, is the trouble of having that gate open and people driving down in the wintertime and getting stuck. Who's going to plow it? So what we did talk about was getting the contact so that when the weather permits, early, if it's before the May long weekend, that they will have someone come out and unlock the gates so that we can have use to the, have access to the lake earlier. And so they left the gate open this fall because the weather was good. So, but as soon as the snow flies, they're going to be shutting that gate because there isn't supposed to be, snowmobiles or ATVs down that road anyway. So anyway, we can work on that later. I've got some good contacts there. Via Rail is going to be I'm not sure on the timelines, but they're going to be having they're going to be having a passenger train now that will go from Vancouver to Prince George. So I was talking with the fellow there again about possibly, keeping that conversation open about possibly having that train run into Tumbler, just, maybe a signature run once a year or something. So, we had a good chat on that too. So those kind of things excite me. Sarah Waters was voted onto the board for Northern BC Tourism, so that's good for Tumbler Ridge. I sat in on a webinar here on small town communications, changing times, changing tools. One thing I've noticed is that we're missing the newspaper. The community's missing the newspaper, and they're not getting the word out. So how do we move forward with that? And there were some good suggestions just on town hall and keeping, I think our council does pretty good at being transparent, and we've upped our town hall meetings, but they had some suggestions. The mayor from where was he from now? Anyway, they do talks. They call it Let's Talk, and it'd be maybe Let's Talk Rural Land Development. And so they have different nights, just a one topic kind of forum. They also do something called Pints and Politics. I don't know, but so they they go from.
That sounds like a good idea.
It sounds not bad. So I mean, there's different ways to communicate, but just trying to get over that hurdle of not having a newspaper, and where do we go from there, and if there's any way that we can try to get one back, or so. Questions on that?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Why? Because we have the mirror. Right? So it might be a Dawes Creek baby. There's no reason why it can't be advertising stuff in there too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people come in and pick it up all the time. So.
And next council meeting, I plan on bringing a motion forward that we set up that mailer that we were talking about to distribute through the grocery stores.
Right.
And also in at the post office, so I'm bringing a motion forward to be voted on next council meeting.
Excellent. I think that's a great idea. Also, I was able to talk to a few of the people that were here.
Casey had a question for
Oh,
you.
sorry.
Yeah,
Didn't see him.
just a question with regards to Chetwood, actually. They have a TV channel. And I don't watch it in any great regularity, but nevertheless, is that, I don't know what's behind that, but is that something that Tumbler Ridge can pursue? Is it
Well-
a TV channel?
They did come here, that we're gonna get a call, a state, like on the radio, but they were here earlier presenting.
Mr. Wall, do you have any more information on that TV channel?
On the radio station?
Radio. What was it?
Radio.
I believe they're going to the CRTC. I don't believe it's till next summer. But the meeting is, I could be wrong, I'll double check on the timeline.
And what about the TV channel? I mean, is that, I don't know how it must have been a method that they followed or whatever. Just thinking if they've got one, then would it be possible for us to maybe pursue that as well?
It's something we could,
It's the same company, so if the radio station got started, it would be the first step towards doing it.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I think that's it for me.
okay, yeah, my pen quit, so I had to put it on my phone. The other day, MOT was at, the regional district, and so I asked them a few questions pertaining to Tumbler Ridge. And, it was the ATVs that, Mr. Croston had asked about on the Canusa Falls Road. And what they're telling me is that that road is right now, it's in between ministries, so they can't even tell me if there's gonna be ATVs and that allowed on there, so they're gonna send me, as soon as they have the information, they're gonna send it to me. I told them that it'd be really nice if we could have ATVs on there, because we use it as an ATV trail. So, they said they're in that direction. The potholes on the Canusa Falls Road, that's, should be taken care of by the contractor, the roads contractor. So I would like to see us, staff send a letter to them that say that they should be fixing that. Because those potholes are terrible there. I had my truck down there the other day. It was, you gotta just stop, miss all those things. 52 East, and not in the foreseeable future. You know, I just, something we gotta keep hammering at, but it's not on a 10-year plan. So, I even said, well, humor me, I won't be around that long. They wouldn't even do that. So, that's it. And the other thing I was at was a meeting with Councillor Kirby with Lotus Travel and Alex. And I'll tell you, it's an exciting thing. It's, he comes up with these great ideas. That's what he does for a living, moves people around. He wants to work with us to make a product here that can be sold to Asia. It's one of the better meetings I've been to in a while. She was forward.
That's fun.
But anyway, that's it for me. So, question and answer period. Hello?
Your Worship, I am hoping that Mayor and Council would consider an extension to the request for proposals from the Geopark and the Visitor Info Center, in that we understood from our last meeting that there were going to be a scope of work or some parameters provided, and it seems from the motion that you will be looking for us to provide that according to our presentations, which is perfectly possible. However, we held off on making that into proposal format because we were thinking we were going to see some other information. So it'd be terrific if that could be extended until the 17th, like an additional week, because we are a group of volunteers needing to put that together. Really appreciate a slight extension of time.
The 17th, and I know what the reason we come up with that short timeline is what we've got, well, you've already made the presentation, so it's just a matter of putting out things, but like you say, you are a bunch of volunteers there too, and you do have other jobs. Does anybody on council have a problem with that? So we'll extend the timeline to the 17th.
You're gonna need to make you could, within the same meeting, so somebody who voted in favor of the motion could make a motion to bring that back for reconsideration, and at that point you could make an amendment to the motion.
Okay, so we were all in favor.
Okay.
Well, I'll bring it back as, for reconsideration, and, change I wanna make to it is to.
So, if you bring it back for reconsideration, you still need to have the vote to reconsider it. So the first thing you should do is have a vote for reconsideration.
Motion to have it for reconsideration. Seconder for that? Okay. All in favor? Okay, now reconsideration, let's take it to November 17th.
Okay, so you just need to propose an amendment now.
Yeah, that's the amendment, to move it to the finish date of November 17th. Seconder for that? Okay. Discussion.
Thank you, Worship. When they're looking for parameters of what we're looking for the 150, we're keeping that number the same. What more can council ask from these groups? That's what I'm looking at, because, you know, I thought both groups gave us the information needed. So what are we looking for that they can provide to us different for the 17th? So is that going to be another meeting again?
I think we're just looking at, see both offers in front of us at the same time, to be able to compare one to the other.
So we have a proposal from the Geopark already in paper that was presented to us several weeks ago, and the chamber has what they presented to us as in a round table. It's not in a written format. But is that enough for council to go on without having to extend the deadline? Do we need, like, this is what I'm asking. I don't know what we can ask these groups for any more information. I know myself, I thought I have enough information myself to make a decision. So I'm not, you know, it's to send it back to the 17th. What are we looking for?
The chamber just asked us to extend it to the 17th.
Okay, but they want us to also give them some, no, we don't need to give you any more, just to get that written?
Last meeting there was discussion of providing parameters, and that's why we've held off on just putting it into a proposal format. So now with knowing that our proposal are the parameters,
Is that? That's just my question, because I'm unclear as.
the numbers in our proposal are not very specific. I would really
Okay.
like the opportunity to make that.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Councilor Hall, you had something?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Scott? Okay, we haven't voted on that yet. All in favor? Opposed? Okay.
So you've amended the motion, you need to now pass the amended motion. So that was the amendment to change it to, and now you need to pass the amended
Oh,
motion.
okay, now the amended motion. I need a. Okay, I'll put it out there. You seconding it? Discussion on the amended motion. All in favor? Opposed? What's that? Go ahead, Paul.
I don't want to prolong the meeting,
Yeah.
but I did have a couple of questions, not to do with the chamber at all. First, thanks for the lease. Good to know we've got it for another 5 years. My questions, there's one, pursuant to what Joanne was talking about with Lotus Travel, what's going on with Twilight Lodge And is it an option in this alternate accommodation scheme? I was driving past it the other day and I thought, hey, it used to be cool to go in there and have dinner and stuff, so I just wondered what was happening.
It's owned by Daywa.
That's what I thought.
And I don't think until they start up again,
So
I
it's
don't
just
think.
sitting there.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's a shame, okay. And my other comment is there any way that we could have you guys use the microphones, please? My ears are getting older.
I thought we were.
No.
If you are, it's not working.
Okay. Is this on?
That's working.
That's how close you are.
Hello?
We need
I
to
will
move
move
that.
it closer. Sorry.
And when you try and watch it on there, it's like, the mics would really help a lot. Thank you.
And I've had that comment.
Thank you. I think I've probably made it too. Yeah, thanks.
I will have it there from now on.
It's not just you.
Okay, I think that does it.
Worship.
Adjournment. Oh, Councilor Casey?
Your worship, just before we adjourn, can we just review for me the dates that we have set for meetings in November?
Mr. Wall, can you?
November, the only new meeting in November is on the 24th at 1 PM with Urban Systems.
Okay? Everything else
Yep.
is as is.
Yes.
Thank you. And the only other comment, your worship, that I would like to make is I thought this was a first-class piece of work. A first-class piece of work. It was well set out, the analysis, the whole 9 yards, and the staff, Mr. Wall and his staff should be congratulated on that in all seriousness. I thought it was first class. Just wanted to mention it. That's it for me.
Good, thank you.
Motion to adjourn? Did we adjourn? Yep.
Free to move until we confirm
Don't do
it.
it. Yeah.
Definitely.
In the presentation, like, probably one, this is what you had, this is my highlight.
Meeting.